So hi everyone and welcome to the first workshop in the Dog Behavior 101 course. My name is Lexuna and I'm the one who designed all the lessons and things that you've learned in this course. And so the purpose of these workshops are just to kind of reiterate what the course has been aiming to teach you, and also kind of play some fun games and get to know and share what everyone has learned with each other. So hopefully this is all going to sound relatively familiar. So like we said earlier, this workshop is really interactive. There's a lot of prompts that I'm going to ask you, and then there's of course a lot of games we're going to play to kind of go over body language and more importantly the first part of our workshop, which was really how dog body language and how we kind of see it and interpret it and ways that our perception kind of influences that. So let's begin. Oops, I'm always pressing the wrong buttons for these guys. There you go. So this is what we're going to go over for the workshop. Like I said, it's going to be the first part of the course. So that's part one, both A and B. So that was about behavior. So we're going to talk about what behavior is, why understanding behavior is important, and how can we understand behavior better. So the first part, what is behavior? Okay, sorry, buttons. So I kind of want you guys to tell me. So in one or two words or phrases or I'm just getting a message that I can't see my agenda slide. Should I go back or are we good?
I don't think it matters. I think we just want to be able to see your slides as you're talking through them. So if you want to
Okay,
just keep moving it along. Yeah, they're
okay?
moving
It's
now.
going now,
Mhm.
right? Okay,
Yep.
good. I'm just like in a different area. Okay, cool. So let me know what you think in the chat. So fill in the blank, right? To me, so me is you, behavior is dot dot dot. So this can be a word or a phrase. You could take a moment and you could interpret this literally however you want. I'm just kind of curious as to when I say the word behavior, what does that mean to you or what do you think about? So we have one from Amy. Behavior is how your pet responds to a particular situation. So it's a response from your dog. So it has something similar, how my dog acts or reacts. Cool. Does anyone else have any thoughts about what behavior is to them? Or ooh, Ewan is joining us. Or how or like what just comes to mind when you think about behavior broadly, but also like if I say like dog behavior, what do you kind of like automatically think about? Give it one more moment. Cool. So these are all really good responses, and O'Callaghan has a really scientific definition: generalized actions relative to stimuli that apply for all species. That's a really good definition for behavior. And yeah, like all of you are right? Behavior is response, reactions to things in their environment. Um, and so these are things we can observe. And that's really, okay, hold on, sorry. And that's really good because when we can observe these things, then we can kind of interpret them, right? So these are just ways that these are kind of my definitions of behavior, right? And this is kind of all along the lines of what you guys are telling me. So behavior is how your dog communicates. So in addition to responding, these responses are a form. I don't know what. Oh, I think there's just a lag. So if you don't see the slide in like maybe 5 seconds, give me a ping because I think there's just a lag between like switching when I click the slide to switch and when the slide actually switches. But yeah, feel free to let me know. Are we good now? So we're on behavior is how your dog communicates. Okay, I'm gonna assume we're on the right side. Right? Okay. So behavior is how your dog communicates, right? So we all know behavior is response. So that response is your dog telling you something, right? And so dogs have ways to tell us what it is that they want and need. So for example, if your dog is responding to a scary situation, they're backing away, right? And so that is them communicating to you that I'm afraid, or I don't really like that, or I want to get away from that. So that's their response, and that's their indirect communication towards you. And there's lots of other ways your dog communicates with you as well. So they can tell you what they want and what they need. And so ways they can do this is they can engage in what is called joint attention to tell their owners where the treats are. And so what joint attention is I'm gonna explain that in an example. So we all live in New York City. There's always tourists walking around. Have you ever kind of just when you're in the subway, you see a tourist who maybe looks a little lost, a little confused. They're looking at the map and they're just like they look at the subway map and they're just not getting it. So they look at the map and they look at you, or someone hopefully who can help them, or looks like a native New Yorker who like understands this crazy New York map. So look at the map and they look at you, and they do it enough times that they kind of get your attention, right? And so you make eye contact with them, and then in that eye contact, you kind of get like, oh, I think this person needs help. And so that's what joint attention is. And dogs seem to be able to do this as well, especially in the context of when they're trying to get a treat and they perhaps can't reach it. And so that's just what the study had shown, that dogs, when they need help trying to reach a treat and they know their owner doesn't really know where the treat is, they'll try to get your attention via this method of joint attention to show you where the treat is so that you can get it for them. And I think that's pretty cool. Dogs also look back to ask for help. So in these set of studies, dogs would be presented with a task that's pretty much impossible to solve. And what they'll do is they'll reach a point where they're just like, okay, this is either too hard or they're just like, this is just not happening. And so they look back at us. They look to us and they're just like, hey, like something's wrong here. You need to fix this situation so I can get the treat. And so they look back at us in order to be like, you need to help me with this situation because whatever it is, it's not happening. And then one other way that behavior kind of helps your dog communicate is through breeding and selective breeding, right? So we do tend to artificially select dogs for certain behaviors, right? We have traits and personalities that we really like in our pet dogs, and these tend to be the dogs that make more pet dogs for us. And so, being really friendly, being really like cuddly. But there's also working dogs who get selected for and bred for the ways they tend to communicate. So, for example, if you have any type of like guard-like dogs, so if you have like German Shepherds or anything like that, they're actually bred in their genetics to be really barky and really vocal. So they'll bark to let you know that something's weird or like danger is there. So these are really barky dogs, and they bark to tell you that I think there's danger. So there's also like a genetic component to behavior, which will also kind of affect the way your dog communicates with you. And of course, vice versa, if you kind of don't have a barky dog, that's just not a method they use. And that's okay because every dog is an individual. And these are just like one of the ways that, I don't like to go back, one of the ways dogs can communicate with us using their behavior. And then, so another way your dog uses behavior to communicate with you is not only through their actions, but their actions also are reflective of what they're feeling. So feelings like stress, or if they're relaxed, if they're scared or they're happy, can be interpreted through their body languages. But this takes perhaps a little more understanding from us and knowing, what body language is associated with being stressed, what body language is there like neutral and they're relaxed, and all that. So it might not be as obvious as these eye contact communications or these like loud barking noises that they're trying to get our attention with. but we can figure this out. So then I kind of wanted to take a break here. And so tell me, how does your dog tell you what they need? I think we can unmute for this one. We could take a few responses. Oh, I do see in the chat, Amy, that Fritzy does demonstrate joint attention with treats several times a day. Big relate to this one. So my dog knows where his treats are, and when he wants them, he will do the so look at me, look at the treats, look at me, looking at the treats. So he's looking back at you to get your attention, and then when he has it, he's directing your attention to what he wants. So those are the treats. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. That's a really cool thing they do. And it's really nice when your dog does that because it's like, oh, I know what it is that you want. Carolyn, do you have is there a way Gypsy tells you what she wants?
She will go pick up a toy when she wants to play. Or she'll stand near her toy area. And
Yeah.
she does, as far as, and she hears me, and as far as wanting TREATSs, which I honestly can't say, she literally will put her head between her paws and look up at me in a way that if you remember the cat in Shrek, the Puss in
Puss
Boots,
in Boots.
with the
Yeah. Don't give me the eyes. Yeah. Like
Yes,
don't give me the eyes.
yeah. So, and now she's
Mhm.
looking at me and like half wagging her tail, which means she also wants treats.
She expects it. Yeah. That's the puppy dog eyes. Irresistible, undeniable.
Yeah.
Can't really fight that. Caraminder. Oh my God, your dog is so cute.
Yes, Mowgli. So I got dog steps for my office so that he can actually walk. These are all like I buy on Craigslist, and he can. I have two kinds. There's like a plastic kind. There's like a nice wooden kind. But the wooden kind, even though he can mount if he wants to, he's always like, I'm on my desk, and I just have to
Right.
lift his butt a little bit, and then he walks the rest
Yeah.
and gets on my chair.
Give him a
and, like,
little. Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta give him a little like it's okay, you can go. Like he almost like asking permission or maybe a little hesitant, but like he just needs a little tap on the booty.
Yeah, just little assistance. So there's
Yeah,
that's
a little
one.
assistant.
And then the other is whenever we arrive home, or there's been a break in terms of like him being with us, with me, with any guest in the house that he is familiar with, he will like, he's obviously so excited, he's, circling them and this, then all of a sudden he'll like, "Roo, roo, roo, roo," right? Like, as in, where have you been and why haven't you been playing with me? Because
Yeah.
every time. And it's always like that saying, "Roo, roo, roo." That's so close. It's not like a howl. He's literally talking to us.
Yeah, like he's trying to
Like,
form the
where
words.
you been?
Yeah.
Where you been? And let's go play now. That's what.
Right when they get kind of demanding. Cool. These are all honestly really fabulous examples, and I'm glad they also sound really clear, right? And I'm really glad to hear that because we also reinforce these behaviors. So we reinforce their communications when we respond back to them, and then they respond positively and turn back to us because that way they know how to communicate with us as well because we're responding appropriate to them. And so we all sound like we're responding appropriately to our dog's demands and wants and needs, which is great. So let's move on to the second part because I feel like we're all experts here.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Amy.
Can dogs learn from other dogs how to behave in a different setting and then bring it back to their home setting?
That's such a good question. So there's a little back and forth between that. So there are instances where dogs can understand another dog's body language. So I think in the course, I hope I included it in the course. I included one example of tail wagging, I believe. So like a dog can look at another dog and then through their body language, for example, tail wagging in particular, they could tell that dog is a little stressed or a little hesitant or pretty happy, loose, and playful. And so we know that because the dog who is looking at that stressed dog or happy dog responds in turn And that was significant in the study. So dogs can pick up on other dogs' kind of body language and behavior, but I think that there's also a really big individual component as well. So for example, if you have a really like sociable dog who picks up on these signs really well, then potentially they can learn from other dogs or pick up habits or things. On the other hand, if you tend to have a pretty reserved dogs who don't look to other dogs that often, chances are they might not pick up on these habits, and that might be just because they tend not to pay attention to other dogs as well. That's not where they kind of look to for information and things of that sort. So it's a possibility, right? It could be. I know. I mean, at least I know for my dog, he learned to like kick after he peed. After he was like watching another dog do like really intently as a puppy, and that was like the first time we saw it. So anecdotally, I wouldn't say no. So that's just my personal story. I mean, does anyone actually? This is kind of interesting. Did anyone have any experiences where they think their dog may have picked up other behaviors from other dogs?
Well, my dog like never kissed me on the lips ever, and then hung out with.
concepts and like whatever.
He cut off a little at the end.
I'm sorry.
You're
Somebody
fine.
else? Oh well, I stopped talking because I thought somebody else was talking.
No, you're okay.
But she started kissing me on the lips to wake me up in the morning, and I didn't teach her that. So I think the boarder may have done that with her, or she saw another dog do it. And
Yeah.
and that's how she started to wake me up in the mornings.
Aw, that's a cute story. Okay, sorry, my slides are just moving everywhere. So I think that kind of is a okay transition into our next section though. Why is understanding behavior important, right? So here's another really interactive. I kind of really want to know, why is a behavior important? So, I think everyone might have different reasons for this. So I want to know specifically why you want to know more about your dog's behavior. And this seems to be a long form, so feel free to unmute or raise your hand. Hold on, I'm gonna try to do this. Hopefully it will come out like faster. Okay, I just readjusted the screen, so hopefully the slides are going to be a little more in time.
I can go.
But yeah.
This is Sonali. Yeah, I think for me, and I think this is like a lot of people in the community, like behavior changes as our dogs develop, like as you go from puppy to adult to senior. And so I think my dog is between that adult to senior phase right now, right? So for me, it's really important health-wise to keep an eye on anything that's going on. And I think behavior has usually been my best indicator. And then, yeah, also I just want to make sure she's fine, right? Because she's a rescue. So when we first got her, we didn't really know what she was afraid of, what she wasn't. And now I can just sort of by watching her behavior kind of figure out, is this a good situation to put her into versus not? So I think that's kind of why it's helpful to keep learning more about it as she gets older.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a really good answer. Cool. Carolyn, I saw.
Yeah. One of the things for me is that Gypsy, she doesn't like when a dog literally gets in her face and she'll snap. So, and another thing is I watch when other dogs get a certain level of aggression or when they have certain body language, I know that triggers her. Because sometimes when I'm walking her, I can't see her face. I can't see what she's looking at. I mean, she's also shaggy, but I can sometimes see other dogs and watch them and have been able to sort of like forestall like an incident where their own owners aren't watching the lowered head and the, and the stare and all that. So it's sort of, that's a thing for me too, is when I'm out can't control things to sort of like understand what's going on.
Yeah, you can't control like other people and their dogs, but you kind of control your dog and what kind of comes into their space, right? So if you kind of see a dog who's like a little stiff, then you know you can at least move your dog away from them before you get too close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Kiwi, I think you're on Matthew's account, so I'm assuming it's actually Kiwi. Go ahead.
Yes, it's me. It's we Zoom with clients, so we change the name back and forth. And I try to avoid Zoom at all costs normally, so normally it's him. But yes, that's so funny that you said that about other dog interactions, because I didn't realize that was like how helpful it was going to be for those dog to dog interactions, like walking down the street in New York City. Like I can usually tell if a dog is getting ready to lunge at us, and just kind of try to keep my distance or cross the street or whatever. Like I can tell much more quickly now, like the jumpy dogs from the, sort of more chill dogs. And so that's been really useful, because when we first got Bianca, she was a little bit reactive, being new to New York City and a lot of noise and a lot of stimulation. So totally understandable. But, it helped me kind of avoid at least that one particular trigger. And then really helped, like learning more about her behavior has really helped me be more sensitive to like what is happening when she does things, especially when we're outside. Like, I think if I didn't have all of the insights that I've gained so far from this, I think I would not have understood as clearly the difference between like when she's scared of something or when something makes her nervous versus when she's looking for a snack, or she thinks she found some food or when like she needs to do her business, or any of those things. Like, and all of those things, I think I'm allowed to see, I think I'm able to see a lot better than if I didn't have these sort of detailed insights about like what her ears are doing and like what the rest of her body is doing and where is she looking and why is her paw raised, and like all of those little things, along with the context of like what's going on around us. It's been like super helpful. So I think, yeah, just sort of learning more about that, and also like being able to apply it to training has been really helpful too.
Right.
So those would be my top reasons, I think.
Yeah, no, those are all really good reasons. And yeah, absolutely. These are all the things behavior can tell us about our dogs. And this is all ways behavior can help us give our dogs really good lives, even, if it's these minute daily interactions or avoidance of interactions of like walking on the street. So yeah. Ooh. Oh, cool. So yeah, so in summary, right, I think you guys summed up the first point really, really well. So in order to kind of recognize stress, both in your dogs, but in other dogs as well, so you can avoid stress in your own dog. But behavior can also, let your dogs be dogs. So we are always thinking about like, what do our dogs need to do behaviorally to be happy, or like if my dog does a certain behavior, like is that normal? Like should I be concerned? Is it like reflective of a health issue? Is it just reflective of anxiety, or is it just a personality quirk? And so understanding not only dog behavior, but getting to know your own dog and their behavior kind of like baseline will kind of really help you gauge when changes happen in their life, if it's stressful or if it might be reflective of health. And all these things come together to ultimately help you and your dog live your best life together and have everyone be happy and like not stressed, or at least be able to cope with minor stresses in your life. So just gonna go over some specific things. I just want to do this so it changes together. So yeah, we talked about normal dog behavior, right? And like, what does that mean? And one of the big things that I kind of tend to think about with this is a lot of people who report behavior problems, they're actually just really normal dog things. So dogs barking a lot. So we talked about how barking is actually a form of communication that some dogs are actually selected for. So if you happen to get or adopt a dog who has these types of breeds in them, then they're gonna have these tendency to bark, and that's just their way of communicating with you. Some of our dogs bark too. So like when we come home and they give us like a little woo to come play with us, right? So vocalizations are really normal for our dogs, but we sometimes think of this as problematic. Jumping. So jumping is also really normal, right? When your dog gets excited, it's just something that they kind of do. They don't really think about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong with them, and it doesn't mean they're being bad or anything. Um, Fearful behaviors and aggressive behaviors. So sometimes when people see like a dog who's growling at another dog, and they think that like, oh, that's bad, and they feel like they have to respond to that. No, that's just your dog communicating. I need space. This is making me uncomfortable. And instead of, reprimanding them, what you really want to do is listen to them and basically move them away. And so once again, this isn't necessarily a problem behavior. It's your dog communicating with you. And so we want to respond positively in a way that really respects what they're telling us. And so once again, these are really normal behaviors that people tend to think are problems. But they're really just your dog telling me, hey, I'm stressed, I'm a little scared, I need something else. So then on the other end of these problematic behaviors is actual problem behaviors, right? So these are changes in your dog that might signify bigger problems, whether it's underlying anxiety or or underlying health issues. And so when I say behavior problems, these are kind of secondary symptoms that are coming up because your dog is in pain or your dog is not feeling super well. And so, you also want to address that both behaviorally, but also you want to see a vet when they kind of deviate from their baseline behaviors of what you know about them. Kiwi, is your hand raised for a question, or was that just reminiscent of before? So I think one of the big points here that's I picked up is behavior is can tell you a lot about your dog's health. So understanding your dog's natural baseline and how they normally behave, you can tell when they start kind of moving away from that might be a problem. And so there are some studies on this as well. When you have a dog with poor behavior, so, for example, if your dog has non-social fear, so these are kind of like separation anxiety. So this isn't just like them, you know, if you leave for like an hour or something and they're just kind of like fine and coping, then that's okay. But this is like separation anxiety where they might be shaking. So full-on separation anxiety. So if your dog has a real problem behavior, this actually can increase the severity and frequency of skin disorders. So they're literally the microbiome on their skin kind of changes. So you might see like itching and all that. Fear of strangers was also associated with shorter lifespans. And if you kind of think about this logically, it makes sense because every time they come across any other living being, they're just like their heart rate's up, everything's like pumping. They're really literally in this like fight or flight mode, and you can't. It's like, and you can't imagine kind of living a life like that. It can't be good on your health, like in like physiologically or even like mentally. And so we really want to address actual problem behaviors. And of course, euthanasia, when these problem behaviors become a little too hard to handle for the owners, and it just becomes really strenuous and stressful, that they end up giving the dog up. None of this last one is probably not an issue for anyone, so I'm just gonna kind of move this along. But yeah, if your dog has any other fears, just kind of think about how to deal with them. Usually, a licensed trainer or something can help you with that. But on the plus side is once you can start to recognize these problem behaviors and these behaviors that are far from your dog's norm and from your dog's like relaxation baseline and comfort level, you can start intervening and you can start preventing these situations. So early interventions and prevention really does come from behavior and owners noticing these behaviors and then bringing them to their vet or to like a licensed behaviorist and being like, hey, like this is not normal in my dog. I think like there might be an issue. And that's literally the first step owners take in order to better their dog's welfare. It starts with you. And so where are some things where understanding your dog's behavior can lead to early intervention and prevention? So arthritis, signs of arthritis in adult dogs we've seen them weight and body sensitivity. So if you're touching your dog and they might be like kind of like moving away from you, or maybe kind of like twitching a little, or a little hesitant when they see you're about to touch them, have predicted arthritis signs in adult dogs. So then once you see these, so if your dog is a dog who loves being petted and all of a sudden they don't like being petted, either they could have some temporary pain there, or they might, have arthritis. And then you can kind of take that information to your vet and tell them, like, this is not normal with my dog. And then they can kind of take it from there. So these are like kind of slight body or changes or behavioral changes. And then behaviors can also indicate cognitive aging. So we talked a little bit about this in a bunch of previous ones, but cognitive aging is almost like the doggy version of dementia or Alzheimer's. Their brain, like as you age, it's very normal for your brain to kind of age with you as well. But cognitive aging is kind of extreme brain aging to a point where it's really affecting your dog's life. And there are lots and lots of behavior. There's primarily a behavioral changes that you will see first. And so once you kind of start noticing these changes, you can start taking action to intervene and prevent and slow down this progress. So lots of behavior stuff and your dog's health. Cool. And then how can we understand? Actually, I can take a pause here real quick because that was a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions about behavior and or hopefully I addressed all your reasons as to why you would like to know about behavior? These were pre-made slides, so if I didn't answer your reason, definitely ping me right here, right now. Cool. So how can we understand behavior? I like made a mental note in my head because someone had made a comment. But the way we can understand behavior better is literally through knowledge, practice, and experience, right? So we have knowledge from the course. No matter where you are, you guys probably know a little bit about dog body language. Even if you don't know about general dog body language, you know your dog. So I do trust that you guys know your dog well. So then the second is practice, right? So not only do you have to kind of like know this stuff, you have to kind of you kind of have to practice it. You kind of have to apply it because that's the way we make it stick. And of course, experience. So the more you do this and the more you spend time with your dog and know who they are as a dog, and specifically as your dog, then you will know what their behavioral baselines are, and you'll kind of know their quirks and what's normal for them. But for these games that we're going to play, we're going to focus on the practice aspect of it. So we're going to practice looking at each kind of individual body parts of dogs and just kind of recognizing them as they are in context as a whole. And so that way we can kind of get better at doing this and understanding these concepts. But so yeah, let's play. So in this game, we're going to work on a behavior together. So what I'm going to do is in the next couple of slides, I have broken up a large picture of a dog in a situation into 4 parts. I'm going to slowly reveal each of the 4 pictures one by one, and we'll go through each picture together. So for example, let's look at the first one here. So, so these underneath each letter are 4 kind of like screenshots of parts of the picture that I took out. We're going to reveal them one by one, and we're kind of going to go through these questions one by one as well for each picture. So how do you think the dog is feeling? What do you think could have caused whatever is going on in these little puzzle pieces? And then, of course, we always want to think about, okay, what other piece of information will I need to kind of, either confirm or refute what I think is going on? Does that make sense to everyone? The first one can be practice. So let's do the first one together. Let's do the first one together, and hopefully you get what I mean. So in this first one, let's look at this picture. So in this first picture, what are we seeing? So feel free to unmute. This is like a free for all here. So what are we seeing in this first picture here? So let's look at what's going on in the puzzle piece together. So the idea is as I reveal each piece, we're gonna get a clearer and clearer picture. Comfort and domination. Interesting. I feel like it's two opposites, right? Unless find comfort in domination. Discomfort, domination equals or So, Carolyn, why do you think there's a little discomfort going on? And do you think it's discomfort from the owner or discomfort in the dog?
Honestly, I thought the dog might be at the vet. I don't know if that's true, but the way the dog's being held and the way the dog seems to be reacting, which looks not happy, moving away, body looks a little tense, but that was like my first thought.
Okay, yeah. And then, cool. So then from this one picture, it's kind of hard to tell. Oh, actually, you answered most of this. So we think the dog could be a little uncomfortable. We think it could be the context of the situation. So the dog being at the vet could make them really uncomfortable. So then my third question is open to everyone. What is one other thing you might want to know? So what other piece might you want? So this could be you want to see like another part of the dog. You might want to know like who that hand belongs to. You might want to know maybe where the dog is. So these are just yeah, no, absolutely, all of those. Ooh, Amy says they could be at brunch because the dog is on her lap. Very interesting. Okay, so let's move on to the next piece, and hopefully this is going to get a little clearer. You can see the second one. Cool. So, Caraminder, you have a little bit of the dog's face. So here we have the dog's muzzle. We have his nose. We have, we see a little lip. So, do you still agree with your first guesses? So, Carolyn sees a closed mouth that doesn't seem relaxed. Caraminder says he is at attention, almost like dog sentry mode. All right, let's definitely alert. So we have two people who think he's alert. This dog's alert. Okay, so Amy's changing her mind. She thinks she's agreeing with Carolyn. So we have two people who think the dog is uncomfortable and kind of tense. Two people who think the dog is kind of just alert and at attention. Let's reveal the third piece, shall we? Ooh, look at that eye. So does anyone know what we kind of call this eye? Yes. So this is a really neat whale eye, right? Side eye. A little bit of a side eye as well. Side eye, whale eye, almost the same thing. So the white is called a sclera, and when it is showing, we call it a whale eye. And so what are whale eyes typically associated with when we say a dog has a whale eye? What does that generally mean? Conservation. Getting the full like 180. Like a lizard. Suspicion. Yep. So something is not right. Super uncomfortable. Cool. And then let me just real quick. So let's look at the fourth one. So we have an ear here. We have a little fluffy ear. What do we think about this ear? Nervous. Yep. It's a little, so it's kind of perked, right? So this dog has like brown ear. It seems to have like a white undercoat. So you see that little tuft of white. So the inside of his ears kind of almost showing. So you know his ears a little like pushed back, a little kind of like open. But yeah, no, you're right. It's really hard. So this is also the other thing, right? So depending on kind of like your dog's body in itself, certain behaviors are easier to see and some are harder to see. So that kind of gets with knowing your dog. I was actually really annoyed because we did the dog facts thing today, which is basically like a program that that like quantifies your dog's facial movements, and they said that floppy dogs cannot rotate their ears. They're considered like physically impossible, and I took offense to that. So that's so if you think huskies, when their ears go like when the ears, so this is like the inside of the ear, like this is like the ear canal, and they go like that. That's called like an ear rotation. And they said dogs with floppy ears cannot do that. I was like super offended because I'm like, that makes no sense. But yeah, according to them, it's not a thing floppy ear dogs do. Oh, anyway, sorry. So back to this. So our ears are a little tense. They're a little like pulled back. Okay, so before I have the big reveal, does anyone want to make a big guess as to what is going on here? So what is this a picture of? So we put all these pieces together. I think you'll notice that the one thing I didn't give you in this piece of the puzzle is the context, so the environment. So why don't we, so knowing all these different body parts, where is this dog? Why don't we start there? So Cameron thinks that he's at an airport, a new uncomfortable situation. Do you have any guesses of where else this dog could be? Still vet, got lots of vets. I'm gonna do a big reveal in 3 seconds. I can do a countdown, so if you want to get your guesses in, get it in 3 seconds. So in 3, 2, 1. So the dog's at a cafe, right? The dog's at a cafe. He's really tense, and he's giving a side eye. So what do we think about this situation? Was anyone surprised that? Was anyone surprised that this dog could be in basically a cafe? Most likely, I'm gonna assume that the woman that he's with is his owner. Yeah, that dude is, yeah. So the guy's being really inappropriate, right? He's really up in this dog's face, and now that we kind of see the dog as a whole, aside from the side eyes, the ears, we can see like his face is like going away from the person. So I guess my last question to you is, if you were the owner, what would you do? Let's say this guy is your friend. So I feel like we've all kind of been in situations like this, right? Where people want to like pet our dogs or touch our dogs. Yeah, the dog's trying so hard not to look at him. It's kind of hard, right? Amy says Tinder fail.
I'll just chime in really quick. I think sometimes because the girl, she seems to be enjoying this interaction. I don't know if it's because she can't see the eyes and the face, or she's not good at reading the body language, but he's really in her dog's face. Like he's closer to the dog's face than she is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's, and you know, I mean, like this is a stock photo, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So
these are all stock photos, yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of fascinating to think that this is probably like considered very normal behavior to go and like stick your face in someone else's dog's face, and then we get mad if the dog like reacts to that. Like, because this dog seems submissive, but another dog could have like reacted.
A dog is a little less tolerant. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of like circles back to why understanding not only dog behavior, but our dog's behavior is really important, right? So perhaps if this owner took this course, she would know that perhaps she should either tell the guy to like move away from her dog, or, you know, allow her dog to move away from the situation. Because with her hand on her dog, you know, her dog might not feel like she's able to go get away and move. Like she almost feels like she's being held there on the lap. So yeah, maybe choice as well, giving dogs opportunities to know that if you're uncomfortable, you can leave, is also another option that could happen. Cool. So I think we all did really well. So why don't we move on to the next puzzle? They're gonna follow the same format. I'm gonna slowly reveal each of the 4 parts of the picture, and then we're gonna kind of go over them one by one, and hopefully by the 4th one, we have a really good idea of what that last final big picture is. But do we have any questions before I move on to the next picture? So once again, what is happening here? Same questions, more or less. Yep. Okay, what is this? Can anyone tell me what this is? It's a little weird, right? I'll give you, I mean, I will tell you at the end, but I kind of want everyone to make a guesses first. What part of our, oh wow, Amy, an ear, yes. Carolyn, dog leading out of car window. Happy dog in the window. Dog sticking head out of the window. Car ride. Okay, wow. Okay. So yeah, everyone's doing really good. This is clearly an ear. It looks like the inside of an ear, right? So if I had blocked off everything but the ear, how would we kind of describe this ear? I remember I talked about it in the pulled back. Pulled back. I don't know if I talked on the course, but there's these things called airplane ears that a lot of people tend to talk about, and so that's kind of when your dog has their ears pulled back. You kind of see this more clearly with floppy dog ears, but their ears are kind of pulled back. They're almost like crinkled so that they're kind of like crinkled on themselves. So it's like just literally just pointing to the back of their heads. And so airplane ears tends to be associated with kind of like a negative affective state too. So either being a little scared, being a little stressed. Almost looks like this, right? Except it is inside out. Cool. So let's move on. Let's do this really quickly. So what do we see here? What's up with this mouth? How would we kind of describe this? This is a little tricky, huh? I kind of blocked off the commissure, so you kind of look at the muzzle. But how would we kind of describe this muzzle? We see little teethy, little teethy. Would we say is relaxed? Would we say it's a little tense? Alert? So alert is generally kind of like tense-ish. So we're gonna file that under the tense side. It's kind of alert, right? And usually taking in sense, mouth not slack. Mouth is not slack. Interesting. Karen Mitter disagrees with you, Sonali. He says it's relaxed and not alert. I love it. I love the drama. Hard to say. Wind could be affecting expression blowing in the face. Yep. So the wind is like an environmental factor. So let's do the next one. Oh, and look, we have a commissure. So if you did the course, that when they say the commissure of a dog's lip, this is the part they're talking about. It's the corner of your dog's lip specifically. It's just a super fancy way of saying it. So what do we think about this dog's lip? Yeah, a little pulled back, right? So this is a little pulled back. You can kind of tell because of the way it's kind of wrinkling. And you see the gums are showing a little bit. So if I was looking at this picture alone, I would say it looks a little pulled back, right? And so if it's pulled back, what do we usually think? Oh, stress. Yep, pulled back is uncertain and or stress. Cool. We're doing super good with this. So in the last picture, it's pretty so the last picture, does this confirm what you guys have been thinking? Okay, I should have switched the first slide. So the dog is sticking his head out the window. We can see that. But we're also kind of looking at the neck, right? It's kind of like strained. And usually when we look at a strained neck, we usually, we think that's like positive? Do we think that's negative? So if I just kind of showed you this dog and I somehow cropped out all the context of it, and I was just like, this is a dog's neck, and you see it's kind of strained. What do we kind of associate that with? Active, fun, stimulated, curious. I'm just reading these off the chat from everyone. Cool. So I think we pretty much know reaching. So I think we all pretty much got this one, right? Oops. The dog is sticking his head outside the window. He's enjoying all the scents. There's probably wind blowing in his face. So good job on that. But I think what I wanted to point out with this puzzle in particular with this set is if we kind of look at, like, if I go back and we looked at these parts individually, right? So we say we looked at I don't know if you can see my pointer, but it's the second one with the teethies, so the mouth. That does look kind of strange. So if we just saw the mouth, we would think like, oh, this dog is perhaps in a like an aggressor or like in a kind of like a conflict with whatever. Even if I showed you this third picture on the lower left-hand corner, right? We see that the commissioner is a little tense. So that alone would also kind of bring us towards like, okay, this dog might be feeling a little threatened. Or even if I showed you that last picture without the car window and you see that strained neck, you might think this dog is lunging or something. He wants his cookie. He left. He's fine. And so I think the point I wanted to kind of make with this puzzle is you can't ever really look at a dog in their individual parts, right? They all have to come together. Not only do they have to come together, but you have to look at them within the context. So in this situation, it's a dog, I would say this dog's enjoying himself. He's probably getting a lot of good sniffs in. He's probably going to like a really fun destination, i.e. somewhere that's not the vet. He's probably with his favorite people. So he's probably enjoying life, right? And so, even though 3 out of the 4 pictures would kind of indicate, at least body language wise, kind of like a negative or stressful state, altogether, this dog's actually pretty happy. Does anyone disagree? You can totally disagree with me. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's just the point here. Let's I hope everyone is doing great. We're going to move on to a little more complicated puzzles because I think these are a little too easy for you guys. So this one's gonna get a little harder. Let's look at this. What is this? What is going on here? You're gonna have to get a little detailed here because I think there's gonna be clues. This one's harder because you guys are doing these way too well. So what is happening here? Amy thinks this dog is about to catch a treat. So he has an open mouth. Does anyone else want to make any guesses? So there's no wrong answers here. We only have one piece of the puzzle. And so obviously we're just going to keep tweaking at our answers until we get to the final picture. So don't be shy. On the attack, so 2 very different situations. Is the dog gonna catch a treat or is he on the attack? We'll find out eventually. Do we want one more clue? Let's do one more clue. Ooh, so this is that almost airplane ear, but it is a little. This is an ear. Why don't someone else describe this ear to me? Barking. Cool. And question, why do you think this dog is barking, Caraminder? Mouth and ears. Sonali thinks the dog might want something. Not bad. Not a bad guess. Okay, hold on. All right, this next picture is going to provide a little context. So are we ready? I don't know, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. I don't know. We don't know yet. We gotta see. All right, so I'm about to reveal the third picture. So if you want to get guesses in, I can do a countdown from 3. So in 3, 2, 1. Sorry, I'm super anticlimactic. Hold on. Okay, there, 3. These arrows, because it's the arrows that go away. So then when I click it, it's always like, I don't know, just goes random. What is this? What is this? What is going on in this third picture? Yep, Amy. Yep, that's a cat, Caraminder. Yep, intruder. That's a cat. And even though we're not doing cat body language here, what do you kind of notice about this cat? We look kind of really closely at his mouth. Yeah, so now I got it. She is licking her lips. So if we were talking to the dog, So we kind of talked a little bit about how like looking at not only our dogs, but like the other dog can tell us a lot about how our dogs might react, right? So if I gave you this picture of a cat, you know, what would we think? How do you think like this cat who appears kind of stressed might tell us about what our dog might be feeling or our dog's behavior? Especially if this cat is mocking the dog. Right? The cat wasn't expecting the dog to show up. The dog could feel cornered. Her ears are also slightly bent backwards. Yep, she got little ears, but yep, I would agree they're a little they're definitely not in a neutral position. Cool. Cool. I'm gonna give you the fourth picture. Probably she because she used to have a cat. Okay, so our fourth picture in 3, 2, 1. What is this? So that's the dog's face that's blocked out because I want you to look at this dog's body language. So what could, if I had given you this picture first, what could you kind of describe this? Yep, Carolyn got it. A play bell, right? Ready to pounce, play. So that's if we didn't know, right? So if we put, but what if we put now this fourth picture of the dog's body together with the dog's neck, together with his ears, and together with knowing that there's a cat in the vicinity? What do we think? How would we kind of interpret this body language now? Yep, almost territorial. The dog is ready to pounce. So we want to put all these 4 pictures together. What do we think is kind of going on in the big picture? I'll give everyone like 10 seconds to guess what's happening in the final big picture reveal. Cool. Yep, intruder alert. Good guess because of that cat's the intruder. Cool. So here is where I got these pieces from. And yep, that dog is not happy that there are cats here. Oh, it looks like it got a bit cut off, but right under, like between the 2 cats, there seems to have been kibble scattered. So I think someone was feeding the cats. I don't know why I got cut off, but yeah, someone seemed to be feeding the cats, and I guess this dog came around the corner, wasn't expecting to see these cats. Are a little spooked, a lot of intruder alert going on, and he's just like, get out of here, you don't live here, this is my home. Yep. So a lot of, so how would you, so do you think, so question, do you think this is kind of, on the dog's part, do you think this is aggressive or do you think this is defensive? Now it says defensive. So defensive, Carolyn also says defensive. Body, right. So Carolyn, the body is leaning backwards, right? So this dog is almost just like, I don't want to do anything, but I do want you to leave. So yeah, so that's so when it comes to body language, there's these things you can look at where like it's the dog's like center of gravity kind of shifted backwards, or shifted forwards. And so a lot of these can kind of tell you if the dog is going to be aggressive or he's just uncomfortable and he just wants the situation to kind of like resolve itself in some way or the other. This dog is appearing to lean backwards. So I would kind of say this is very much defensive. He just wants the cat to go away, but he's also not looking for trouble. Right? Cool. So you guys are really good. So hopefully this next one is going to get even tougher yet. Oh, so here's a hint. For this one, there are 2 dogs. Ooh. So Fritzy got trapped in a bathroom once because a cat was intimidating her. Yep, and it depends on the body language of the cat as well. So yeah, we didn't this isn't a cat course. But we can, like, there are certain things that overlap, right? So the licking of the lip. And so if like the other individual in like the situation is a little stressed as well, that will also influence not only our dog's emotional state, but also kind of how they might potentially react, right? So that's also really important to look at. So I'm glad you guys picked up the cat behavior. So in this one, I'm going to give you a hint. There are two dogs in this image. Pictures A and B, which we're going to do first, are dog one, and pictures C and D are parts of dog two. So let's start, and we're going to, mainly in this one, we're going to guess what their interaction is. So is it positive? Is it negative? Are they happy? Are they not? All the fun behavior stuff. Okay, so this is the butt of dog one. What do we see and what do we think? Let's I can make this bigger. Yeah, so this is the booty of dog one. Can someone tell me? Looks normal. Okay, Amy thinks it looks normal. Dog looks alert because the tail is up. Oh, okay. Thank you. Bye. I know too. So we have, and so the things with tails, it gets kind of tricky, right? So if you have a dog like a Shiba or an Akita who have kind of naturally turned up curly tails, it can be kind of tricky, and you kind of have to really know your dog and understand their tail behavior. Perhaps it might be way too subtle, and they don't even express themselves in that way. But this dog's tail is up for sure. What do we think about his stance? So I know it's just a back leg, but do we think it's do we think it's relaxed? Do we think it's stiff? Is it kind of hard to tell? It can be hard to tell. These are bits and pieces. It's not hard to tell. Stiff, but kind of hard to tell, right? It's not hard to tell. That's okay. Because now we're going to reveal hold on. The first half of this dog. So what do we see? What do we think? What do we think about the ears? So the ears seems like a really obvious one. Yep, definitely sees another dog. Do you see that really kind of almost like a hard stare? Ears look like they are back. It might be a whale eye, but you can't really see. Yeah, this is a little guy. Uncertain about other dogs. Okay, so we think this dog is uncertain. Excuse me, sir. Who are you? We're gonna find out in a second. Kiwi. Cool. So let's look at that second dog, right? Who is she? So this is the second dog. What do we think about this dog? What do we see? What do we think? Looks serious. It's a new dog. So Amy, why do you think this dog looks kind of serious? Kind of curious. I mean, right. Curious as to why so serious. Muzzle is not relaxed. Okay, okay. What do we think? So aside from looking at the dogs, right, we can kind of broaden it. Oh, man, Caroline, you are on fire today. I was literally just saying to look beyond the dog. So pulling on the leash, and it's a terrier. The stance is very tense. Yeah, and it's tense because once again, if you kind of look at that harness and that leash pressure, this dog the leash is pretty tense, right? The leash is pretty. What else can we tell about body language from the leash? So we know there's tension, but like which direction is this dog's body language shifting in? Yep, forward. So we know this dog is shifting forward. The leash is a pretty telltale sign of that. Why don't we go ahead and move on? Look at this dog's bottom half. Ooh, sorry. And so does this kind of confirm what you thought about the first picture? So the dog leaning forward, the dog being kind of tense. Look at that little tail. tail is erect. Yep. So very good. You guys pretty much got it right in the first picture. The second picture is basically confirming your suspicions. So before I do the final reveal, what do we think about the interaction between these two dogs? Do we think it's going to end well? Do you think they're going to be best friends? Do you think they're So Sonali says, I would let dog one, so that's the white dog, have more space. Carolyn thinks the terrier is the aggressor here, so kind of having the upper hand in this interaction, at least personality wise, space wise. Any final guesses before the big reveal? Yes, this is actually a really interesting one, so I'm going to give everyone like 10 more seconds to just kind of gather their thoughts and think about it. What else can we think about when, so we know these two dogs are meeting. We think the terrier is the aggressor. What do you think the first dog might be? What's between them? Interesting. So it could be, right, so when two dogs are kind of like meeting, they might be, and they're both kind of tense, it could be over resources, right? Really good question. Is there, shall we find out? I'm gonna take that slide and say, yeah, we want to know. Stop holding us in suspense. There is no snacks, but that was a really good question. So we see two dogs are meeting each other here. We see the terrier does seem to be kind of shifting forward, and the white dog, the second, the white dog is, how would you kind of describe the mental state of that white dog? So do you think, yeah, what do you think about the mental state, about like what he might want or what he's telling the owner, regardless of it's the owner? WTF, who is this? The white dog is not cool with this terrier. Wow, you were kind of a lot. This terrier's a lot, right? He has a little bow going on as well. He's a very confident. I will give him that. This terrier is a very confident dog, and this white dog definitely feels like you're a little too much for me, right? Yeah, like, excuse me. So the white dog, so I mean, in this situation, right? I think these are all really, really good deductions from what we are seeing. So perhaps, so do you think they could be friends? Do you think these two dogs, or if not, in kind of how would you kind of go about potentially kind of softening their relationship, or at least making their relationship like not a negative? So confident. Yeah, I love a confident dog, though, but this is probably not in this manner. You might want to walk together with owners in between them. Yes, so Carolyn brings up a big thing to leash reactivity. Oh, I'm still here. So leash reactivity is a big thing with certain dogs, and that's mainly because you can feel the pressure for the leash, right? So it's almost restrictive in terms of choices of movement. What else do we think about? Pack walks. So not necessarily pack walks, but kind of like a really controlled walk with like the focus being on the dogs tolerating each other, right? So not that they have to tolerate each other, but perhaps if this is like a dog in a neighborhood or lives in your building and the owner is very lovely, and you perhaps don't want your dogs like lunging and barking at each other all day, or when you accidentally pass each other in the halls, it might be good to at least kind of help them out a little, be like, hey, this dog is fine, there's nothing going on here. Cool. I think you guys did. That's the So Sonali says, when we bring home a foster, we don't let them get close. We walk them around the block first with the adults in between, right, to prevent any lunging or reactivity, just to really have that buffer and that physical buffer. So not only just like empty space, but physical buffer to kind of make them feel more comfortable. Cool. I think so this is the last of these puzzles. I hope you guys had a lot of fun with this. We have about 15 minutes left. So I think so now we have two options. We can open for Q&A about the course, because I think there was a lot of information on the course as well. So if you have any questions, we can kind of do with that. Or yeah. So yeah, so we can do Q&A. So I mean, I'm happy to also go over the second part, because I know the second part seems a little intense because it sounds super scientific, but it's really not. We try to make it as fun and kind of informative and specific to you and your dog's needs as possible. Let me stop sharing this for a hot second. Too much windows open. Everything's like clicking around. Hold on.
Lysina, yeah, I think you could just maybe do Q&A around the topics for today. And then we do have another workshop. I think it's on November 2nd, also on a Tuesday night. So if you haven't had a chance to do the different chapters yet, maybe review those, and then we could talk about part 2 then. But then we get to at least close out this one neatly. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Gypsy loves puppies. I feel like she's a bit of a she is that kind of dog, based on what you've been saying, Carolyn. But yeah, Ella doesn't. Sounds like Bianca doesn't. And Amy said puppy energy is a lot for some humans too.
Yeah,
Oh
puppy
yeah,
energy. We
she
got a
had
couple
puppies.
of yeah. Yeah, no, puppy energy. I don't know if you guys have noticed it in your dog, but my dog had noticed like a puppy, especially like the pandemic puppies, like a mile away, and he will literally like cross the street. He's just like, no, thank you. So yeah,
I think with the
puppy
pandemic
energy's a
ones, it's
lot.
also they're not socialized, so they see another dog and they go crazy because they're just like, I haven't
Yeah.
seen dogs.
Where are you?
Yep. Do
don't know if
folks have
anyone
any
had that
questions
bad.
about what Lysina covered today, or if you guys have feedback?
I hope this was
Feel
fun.
free to
I hope
drop
this
in the
was
chat.
helpful. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if anything that we went over in this workshop was particularly surprising to anyone. Definitely let me know here and now or in circle. Aw, thank you, Keely.
Thank you.
Okay, let me hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and reshare my screen. Sorry. So I'm curious as to yeah, if anything, did you learn anything new in this workshop, or anything surprised you guys here? Okay. Well, if not, or if you can't think of it now, feel free to drop a post in Circle and share what you know or what you learned or what you really liked about dog behavior in the course. I'd love to hear your feedback. And I hope everyone has a good night. If there are any more questions, or yeah, feel free.
Yeah, folks, you can also post follow-up questions in the community in Circle, and come to the second workshop as well. I think it'll hopefully tie the two sections of the course together. And it's also just fun to go through these exercises together versus kind of doing quizzes by ourselves on our laptops. So yeah, hopefully we'll see everyone on November 2nd. And yeah, thank you for coming. Have a good night, everyone.